I'm going to show you one of the most disturbing things happening in science right now, and almost no one is talking about it. That's why we made this video. You're looking at a computer in a laboratory called Cortical Labs. It's playing Doom. But look closer. There's nobody playing it. Or actually, there is. They just can't get out. They are trapped there because this computer is running on living human brain cells, and those cells are the ones playing. So why would anyone build a computer out of brain cells? It basically comes down to power. AI uses a massive amount of electricity, and that number keeps going up.
Amazon investing another $15 billion.
Meta continuing its massive investments in AI, this time in the form of compute power.
The computing power it takes to train these models roughly doubles every 6 months. Almost nothing in the real world grows that fast, but you can't build power plants that quickly. So there's a growing gap between what AI needs and what we can actually supply, and it keeps getting wider. You can see the panic in what the big companies are doing. They're going after energy now, not just better software. Old nuclear plants that got shut down years ago are being turned back on just to power them. Companies are signing deals to lock up huge chunks of the grid years ahead of time. It's not really a race for smarter AI anymore, it's turning into a race for electricity. So a few researchers went a totally different direction. They looked at the brain. Because the brain figured this out a long time ago. Think about what your brain is doing right now and how little it runs on. Everything you're thinking runs on about 20 watts. We're using small piece of what your brain does on basically nothing. And it learns way better than our machines too. To teach a computer what a dog is, you have to show it thousands of photos. A little kid sees a dog once or twice and just gets it. So how did we get from that to a dish playing Doom? It took 3 steps. Back in 2008, researchers grew a sheet of rat neurons and hooked it up to a little robot. And the cells actually drove it around. It sounds bigger than it was. The neurons just sat flat on a grid of electrodes and connected to their neighbors. That was pretty much it. This was nowhere near a real brain, and it wasn't even the first time someone had wired living tissue to a machine. One team even did it with the brain of a lamprey. The footage always looked a little like a horror movie, and from the start, people had one real doubt. Were the cells actually driving, or was the computer just taking their random signals and making it look that way? Keep that question in mind. We're coming back to it. The second step came in 2013. A scientist named Shinya Yamanaka showed you could reset a grown-up cell all the way back to the start. He found 4 proteins that turn a regular cell into a blank, brand new one. And from there, you can turn it into almost anything, including a neuron. That was huge. It meant you didn't have to take neurons out of a brain anymore. You could just take a bit of skin and grow them. There was another big step too. If you grow neurons on a flat dish, they only connect to the ones right next to them. But if you...
So this is, to me, very disturbing because not only do we see that they're trying to do this transhumanistic blending AI with robots and skin cells and rat DNA, or whether that machine, the computer in the beginning, was done with an actual human brain, or whatever the case is, guys, this is all demonic. They're trying to play God. This is not okay. And not only that, but we go back to where it said that these AI data centers are using electricity faster than they can replicate it, and it grows every 6 months at an alarming rate. We know that the knowledge, the information, people, I think there's a statistic that said it used to take let me try and see if I can Google it. 100 years ago, the total sum of human knowledge took approximately 100 years to double. And then we see that in 1945, end of World War II, the doubling rate accelerated to every 25 years. In modern day, knowledge doubles roughly every 13 months, driven by technology and the internet. So we see that's a perfect example of what's playing out right here with this AI. Knowledge is increasing ever so quickly in these last days. And we know that Daniel told us that in Daniel 4, it said that near the end times, many will run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. And I think that this extraordinary acceleration of technological knowledge is an example of what we see here. Now, I have another video that I want to play for you guys as well.
This is what they look like. There are two of them. These are from our lab in Burnaby in British Columbia. From the outside, they look like giant black monoliths, big metal boxes, about 10 feet on a side, 12 feet tall. And they are powered, they have a fridge inside them, a refrigerator that cools these chips to almost absolute zero. Just a wisp, a fraction of a degree above absolute zero. Hundreds of times colder than interstellar space. Amongst the coldest and most isolated and extreme conditions that humans have ever been able to engineer. These fridges, interestingly enough, which are called pulse tube dilution refrigerators, have a thing called a pulse tube, which emits a sound roughly once per second, which sounds eerily like a heartbeat. So if you have the opportunity to stand next to one of these machines, it is an awe-inspiring thing, at least for me. It feels like an altar to an alien god. They really are impressive machines. At the heart of this big box is a tiny chip about the size of your thumbnail. And on this chip resides all of the wonder and magic that makes this thing go. In quantum mechanics, there's this concept that a thing can exist in two states which are mutually exclusive at the same time, quote unquote. And I'm using those words because the English language was developed before we had concepts to describe what these things actually are doing. Imagine that there really are parallel universes out there. And now imagine you have two that are exactly identical in every respect, all the way out to the horizon as far as we can see, down to the last little atomic detail of every single thing, with only one difference. And that's the value of a little thing called a qubit on this chip, which is a contraction of quantum bit. And that qubit is very much like a bit or a transistor in a conventional computer. It has two distinct physical states, which we call 0 and 1 for bit. In the conventional computer, these are mutually exclusive. That device is either one or the other and never anything else. In a quantum computer, that device can be in this strange situation where these two parallel universes have a nexus, a point in space where they overlap. And when you increase the number of these devices, every time you add one of these qubits, you double the number of these parallel universes that you have access to. Until such time when you get to a chip like this, which is about 500 of these bits, you have something like 2 to the 500th power of these guys living in that chip. So the way I think about it is that the shadows of these parallel worlds overlap with ours. And if we're smart enough, we can dive into them and grab their resources and pull them back into ours to make an effect in our world. Now, this may sound very odd to you and bizarre, and in fact, I am using language that a normal theoretical physicist probably wouldn't use, but this is, what I'm telling you is absolutely correct and in line with the way that these things actually work. The doubling of the number of these qubits on the chip has happened once a year for the past...
So I find it strange, not really, that they chose the word qubit. Now, we know that in the Bible, a qubit is a measurement, a word for a measurement used when God was giving Moses the measurements for the tabernacle. Why choose a word like that for this quantum computing when you're talking about interdimensional beings and different universes and things like that? I know that this stuff flies right over people's heads, man, but we see this in scripture. Revelation 13. Also, it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or on the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, that is, the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So this is the mark of the beast, this number 666. Now, we know that all of this AI and quantum computing and all this stuff has part of the mark of the beast system, which is going to be used to control the narrative. It's going to be used to control people. It's going to be used, in my opinion, as part of the image creation that we see, especially with the Antichrist. Revelation 13:14. And by the signs that is allowed to work in the presence of the beast, it deceives those who dwell on the earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived. And it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak and might cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain. This is what I think is going on when we see all these AI data centers and all of this land being purchased and all these. Have you seen the Terafab mock-up? I just did a video on my second channel about this, where Elon Musk is building a factory to make computer chips, where this factory is going to be 1,000 football lengths in size. What do you need that much space, that much ability to make microchips, right? Because we don't know truly what's going to be going on in there.
We'll have probably, so 5 years being, say, 2031. I think digital intelligence will exceed the sum of all human intelligence. That there will be, in 5 years, probably, there might be let's say at least 100 million humanoid robots, but maybe 1 billion. I would predict that the economy is probably twice its current size in 5, maybe 6 years. 5 to 7 years. Because you're going to hit a doubling period, where the economic output is increasing so fast that, plus minus a few years, you will see giant changes.
And not only that, but this one plant will use more power in the one building than the entire United States power grid. That right there just seems so crazy to me. But in those big computers, they said that they had a built-in refrigerator on them that allowed the temperature to get so cold that they wouldn't overheat. So then my thing is, why do we need so much water to run the AI data centers that we have nowadays? Why can't we just input that method that they were doing in 2013? What's the cause for all the water? And then we have Revelation 24. Then I saw thrones, and seated on them were those to whom the authority to judge was committed. Also, I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for the testimony of Jesus and for the word of God, and those who had not worshipped the beast or its image, and had not received its mark on their foreheads or their hands. They came to life and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. Now, clearly, we as Christians, we know that in the end, Jesus is Lord. We go to be with Jesus. So I think that the pressure for people to bow the knee and, get the mark of the beast, that's not going to be the same for Christians. I think that people are under the assumption that they're going to get duped into taking the mark of the beast. This is going to be an allegiance. Not only are you going to choose to do it, but you're going to bow down and worship the Antichrist. You're going to bow down and worship the beast, right? This is something that you're willingly going to do. And we willingly follow Jesus. So we don't need to be worried about whether we're going to take the mark of the beast or not. We do need to be worried about the signs of the times. We do need to understand that this is all an agenda. It's one big agenda from Satan. We have to be aware of that. Revelation 19:20 says, and the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet, who in its presence had done the signs by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped its image. These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur. And this, my friends, is where I believe the culmination of all this AI stuff is going to play out into fruition, because I truly believe that they're going to use AI. They're going to use these data centers. They're going to use the drones and the surveillance technology, and they're going to create this image that people are going to bow down to, that people are going to be able to worship and serve. And I think that all of this stuff has a part to do with it. Now, we know that the Bible does not mention AI. We know that the book of Enoch mentions ancient fallen angel, ancient technology, which a lot of people think that the fallen angel technology is what AI is today. I have a really hard time thinking that man created AI. I just really do. But I know that nowadays with these AI videos, AI generated images, deep fakes, people are listening to AI music and don't even know that it's not a real person. With technological manipulation, all of this stuff, in my opinion, will play right into this mark of the beast system and deceive a lot of people. And that to me is cause for concern, because with so many AI data centers going up, who knows where we'll be at by 2030. if this stuff continues, and it will, because the powers that be want it to. But this is why we have to be cautious and careful about what's actually going on out there, guys. So do not be blind to the devices of the enemy. This is why videos like this are important. The Bible tells us right here in 2 Corinthians 2:11, so that we would not be outwitted by Satan, for we are not ignorant of his designs. The problem is so many Christians want to hide their head and tuck their head in the sand and only focus on, oh, Jesus does miracles. Jesus is a wonder working God. All that's true. All that's beautiful. All of that is amazing. All of that gets discussed on my second channel. This right here is important. Satan is a liar and a schemer, and he has designs for tripping up Christians. He has designs for tripping up Christians. And so if you're out here and you don't want to learn anything about spiritual warfare, you don't want to learn anything about the devices of the enemy, you don't want to know what things are demonic, you can be duped, guys. You can be misled. You can be deceived. That's why I make these videos. That's why I focus on the content that I do on this channel. Too many people are being rocked to sleep. Satan's attacks on believers can result in broken relationships, ineffective ministry, and wasted years on this side of eternity. So when things like this pop up, you'll be able to recognize it for what it truly is, and you won't be fooled and deceived by the enemy and his tactics. That's going to do it for this one, though. I'll leave these videos that I reacted to linked in the description to give them credit for their work, as well as to make it easy for you to follow them if that's what you choose to do. That's going to do it for this one, though. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Until then, God bless.